Good afternoon. Welcome to the April 16th, 2024 Public Services Committee. We have Councilman Laybourne is online, so we have a quorum, and Dr. Rennie's running just a little bit late, so he should be showing up soon. Just a little housekeeping. If you've got a cell phone, or could you please mute it or turn it off? And if you approach to speak, please identify yourself or turn the red button on and then identify yourself, please. Clerk, first item.
Number 11, ordinance second reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, changing the zoning classification from MUB, mixed use business emphasis, to CB, community business, for land located at Lot 2, Block 1, QB subdivision.
Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Seth Lloyd. I'm with the City of Cheyenne Planning and Development Department. This proposed zone change proposes changing the zoning from MUB to CB for a property basically right next to King Soopers, near the intersection of Ridge Road and Delrange Boulevard. The zoning largely in the area is already MUB. However, the CB zone is more appropriate to the development patterns that exist in the neighborhood. And there's been some piecemeal zone changes in the area to go from that MUB designation that predates the UDC to the CB designation, which more closely matches the actual development pattern as proposed by the UDC. For example, we've already had the McDonald's at the corner go from MUB to CB. Planning Commission heard this item and recommended approval. The one no vote on that recommendation was due to the fact that that particular Planning Commission member didn't like the idea of having a different color on the map that was all by itself, not connected to some of the similar color. Considered it kind of maybe a spot zone of a type. And as far as public comment goes, we've not received any public comment on this item, either at the public meeting or via phone or email or any other communication. I'm available for any questions on this item.
Any questions from committee? Questions from committee? Is that house that sits between them?
Mr. Chair, this property was used by Black Hills Energy. It's kind of their storage laydown area in the back. It's proposed to be developed with something else. That's the reason, impetus for the zone change.
Okay, thank you. Any further, nothing from staff or from committee? Any public comment? Public comment? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Number 12, ordinance second reading, annexing to the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, High Plains Road beginning at South Greeley Highway and terminating at Division Avenue.
Okay, staff report.
Good afternoon. My name is Sophia Mays, for the record, Planning and Development. This annexation is for roughly 7.23 acres of land beginning at South Greeley Highway and terminating at Division Avenue. This item is on second reading and was before council at the April 8th public hearing. The city received a petition to annex this land from Laramie County, which was filed with the city clerk on February 15th, 2024. This petition was certified by the city clerk as containing the necessary signatures according to the state statute on February 16th, 2024. The area itself is about 8.3% contiguous to city limits. However, it's directly adjacent to High Plains Business Park, the location of Project Cosmo, and will provide city maintained connectivity to South Greeley Highway. Staff is satisfied the application meets review criteria and therefore recommends approval of the annexation. There are no other associated applications with this annexation, and I stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions from committee?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Councilman Seagrave.
Yes, through you. Any comments from the public at all? Any?
Only there was one, Chair, through you, there was one comment just asking if they would be affected by this, and they were far below where this road would be.
Okay. And it's my understanding this road eventually will be improved. Is that the plan?
I believe so. Chair, through you, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Laybourne, Councilman Laybourne, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Just one quick is where it ends on division, or where it ends on the west side? Is there plans to take that further at some point?
I believe so. The reason for annexing this is so that the city can develop that west side to have access to High Plains Business Park.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any public comment?
Chairman, through you to the committee, Brad Emmons, AVI, representing, also representing Cheyenne Leeds here. This is, again, as the staff had said, a continuation of the High Plains Road. High Plains Road along Project Cosmo was platted with that project, so it will extend about to the middle of that project. There's some temporary accesses from Terry Ranch Road to that parcel as well that are currently under construction. Once those are completed, and we're in a time frame that this road can be upgraded, this road would be upgraded to connect it all the way through to the entrance of Project Cosmo. So the design of the road is under development right now and will be completed at a time when they have provided other accesses to the location, and be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Any questions from committee? Okay, thank you. Okay. Some public comment. Any further comment from committee? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Public?
Oh, public comment. Sorry, I thought we did public.
Oh, okay. All right. Mr. Chair, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
Got a motion to second. Paul. Any other comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 13, ordinance second reading, annexing to the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, land located east of Saratoga Street and west of Whitney Road.
Okay, staff report.
Sharon, members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The annexation before you is located between Saratoga Street and Whitney Road. It's roughly 9.3 acres of land and it is roughly 12% continuous along both the west and then the small portion along Whitney Road. This was an applicant requested annexation. Through staff's review, we did request that all of Laramie Street be part of the annexation, which is why it is shown in this annexation map. There is no specific proposed development for this land at this time. Staff did receive some public comment just from some of the property owners that are to the east of this, but further south. Just wondering about if their properties will be affected or will be annexed right away. That's not the case. Due to meeting all the review criteria, staff does recommend approval of this annexation, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions from staff? Or excuse me, from committee? Questions from committee? Okay, public comment. Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 14, ordinance second reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, establishing the zoning classification of AR agricultural residential for land annexed to the city of Cheyenne located east of Saratoga Street and south of and adjacent to Laramie Street.
Staff report.
Again, for the record, Connor White, Planning and Development. The assigned zoning before you goes along with that annexation. When we annex a parcel, we have basically our assigned zoning process that gives it the underlying county zone when it's brought into the city. This is strictly for just the parcel. That's why with our High Plains annexation, there was no assigned zoning because we don't zone roads. So this is for the parcel. The zoning will just be brought through with the road, but we don't actually have to zone the road. The underlying county zone is AR agricultural residential. So the assigned zoning that best matches in the city is AR agricultural residential. Again, there's no proposed development with this parcel at this time. When there is one, most likely we will see a zone change come before the governing body. With that, staff does recommend approval and I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions from committee? Any questions? Okay, public comment. Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second. Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Number 15, ordinance second reading, annexing to the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, land located at 4204 Delrange Boulevard.
Staff report. We got the whole office down here today, don't we?
Excuse me. I'm Athen Morse with Planning and Development, and right now we have the 4204 Delrange annexation. This is 1.6 acres of land that we want to be annexed into the city. It is in a county pocket currently and is 100% continuous with the city limits. And the biggest thing we'd like is to just get this annexed so that the property owner can have city services and amenities. Staff did, this was approved at the Planning Commission, and staff is seeking approval. There has also been no public comment about this.
Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? I have a quick one. You said so he can tie into city services.
Yes, sir.
Do we have city services contiguous to this?
From the report, I believe so. We can get sewer and everything in there that we need.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments or questions from committee? Okay, public comment. Public comment. Okay. Just throw a tennis ball or something at me, okay? Okay, no public comment. They have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay,
Number 16, ordinance second reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, establishing the zoning classification of city MR, medium density residential, for land annexed to the city of Cheyenne located at 4204 Delrange Boulevard.
okay, staff report.
For the record, Athen Morse again, Planning and Development. This is again for 4204 Delrange Boulevard and getting the zone map amendment. We would like to get this, it is currently zoned as county MR and we'd like to get it to city MR. This was passed at the Planning Commission and staff recommends approval. Same with the past one. There's been no public comment.
Okay. Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Do we have any public comment? Public comment? So they're not going to change anything. It's just tie into, they're not going to build any buildings or,
No, they're not.
okay. Okay, public comment? Hearing none, all, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Number 17, ordinance second reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, changing the zoning classification from CB, community business, to P, public district for land located at Lot 1, Cheyenne Ice and Event Center, second filing located at 1530 West Lincoln Way.
Again, Athen Morse, Planning and Development. This is for the project for the Ice and Event Center at 1530 West Lincoln Way. We're trying to rezone this from community business CB to P, public district, to match the gymnastics facility next door. This did pass a commission. There's been no public comment and we are seeking approval. I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from committee?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Seagrave.
briefly. So this is actually the ice center? I thought it was the gymnastics, but it's, I've got it backwards. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we've been operating in a non-public zone for 10 years or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's, thank you.
Okay, any further comments or questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Public comment? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Number 20, resolution expressing the support of the governing body for the adoption of the Cheyenne-Laramie County Emergency Operations Plan.
Staff report.
Okay. Good afternoon, Janine West. I'm the Laramie County or Cheyenne-Laramie County Emergency Manager and Homeland Security Coordinator. Every couple of years, our emergency operations plan for the entire county, including all jurisdictions within, has to be approved or updated. The reason it's here before you is we typically don't take it through each town within the county every 2 years because it's quite the process, but we had to do a major revision of the plan. So previously it was called Emergency Response Plan. Now it's we are in line with state statute that we fall under. So it's Emergency Operations Plan. So I know that you probably had a ton of time to read all nearly 200 pages of it. But I did send a summary sheet. So within that, some of the major changes that we made were within the base plan, which would probably interest you the most. This is an introduction to the plan. It talks about our vulnerabilities that identify any of the vulnerabilities that we have man-made or Mother Nature made, as identified in our mitigation plans. The roles and responsibilities have been updated for all senior and elected officials within the county, within the city, the small towns, identifying your roles and responsibilities, expectations during large disasters and emergencies, where you fit into place on that. So we don't expect you to go out and fight fires like firemen, but we need you to be in the emergency operations centers and how that operates. So emergency operations centers, who attends those, who comes to the operations centers, where are they activated? What are the protocols in activating that? At what threshold do we have? We have different levels we've identified on the activation of an emergency operations center. Talks about public information and warning, how we send that out through our reverse 911 systems. And then it goes on further to discuss state and federal processes for declarations of emergency or disaster declarations and what that process looks like, who has the paperwork for you to fill out. Me. So, and what we do to support you in that time of need. So additionally, this talks about our emergency support functions in addition, different sections. So there's 15 of those. So we have like transportation, communications, and how all of those partners in the community come together to operate under lifelines. And I know I'm saying a ton of things that you're like, what? So, but this will guide you through all of that. Talks about incident support, specific incidents that could happen around here, that we need to identify more planning procedures on. And then our support annexes, and then also our planning annexes. So any of the emergency plans within Laramie County as a whole that are identified as an annex to the emergency operations plan. So we have our mass fatalities planning, our county health, pandemic planning is an annex to this, snow plan. There's a ton of them that are listed within this. So, since we did a major revision, I'm going back to each council within Laramie County and then later the county commission to do an approval. Every couple of years when we do an update, if there's no significant changes, you'll just get notification of the update. And then we will actually be conducting a training. So with this, I am putting together a training for all senior officials. It's hard to get all of you together. So I'm going to try to do a Zoom thing. Just explaining in more detail roles and responsibilities and what we're doing on the back end to prepare for large emergencies and disasters beyond every large emergencies that we have on a regular basis. So we have our command post set up and our EOC set up and getting state and federal support. So we'll be working to get that training to you guys soon. that's kind of it. That's the gist of it. So this plan is for official use only, so it is not out for public view. It could be at a time like this during an approval process, and then we do not post it. We're protected under state statute. We don't have to advertise what we're gonna do. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't share that information if a member of the public came to us and said, let me understand this better, what you guys are gonna do. We sit down, we go over it. I still don't email it out. So this is a protected plan.
Any comments or questions from committee?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Councilman,
Thank you for what you do. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
any other comments or questions? My only question is, does Public Services Committee get a key to the bunker?
Sir, if you'd like to pay for me to have a bunker for you to have a key, I
Okay.
would really like that.
Hmm,
There's no bunker. I'll let you drive a four-wheeler maybe, or maybe the com van.
Yeah, Public Works won't let me drive anything.
Oh, they don't let me
There's a
drive
reason
anything
for
either.
that.
We do have a new snowcat. I could take you for a ride in if we had snow,
Okay.
but sorry, no bunkers.
Any public comment? Public comment?
Mr. Chairman, can we just have the record show that Dr. Rennie joined the meeting at 12:18 PM?
You're ready to join the meeting at 12:18 PM. Welcome. Okay, any public comment? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt.
I have a motion, second. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments from committee? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Number 21, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign a final plat for Cary Cottages, City of Cheyenne, Laramie County, Wyoming, located southeast of the intersection of Grove Drive and Cheyenne Street.
Staff report.
Chair and members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The plat before you is to basically take one single parcel and subdivide it into 4 lots for townhouse style development. These lots would be considered our AD1 lot type, so they do meet the frontage requirements. And then because we have eliminated the lot size requirement, there isn't a lot size requirement there. But they do meet the frontage requirement. This is located just south of Cheyenne Street and east of Grove Drive, so it's over by Cary Junior High. With this plat, you should have seen in your packet, the applicant is also in a way requesting some relief that we do ask city council to kind of acknowledge with the approval. Part of that relief that they're kind of requesting through our administrative adjustment process is to reduce the rear setback for the style of building they want to provide. So they would be reducing, if this plat is approved and council acknowledges the relief, then it would reduce the rear setback to 10 feet. And then we did make it clear to the applicant that garages on this, because they are going to be front-loaded townhomes, which also requires a subdivision standards waiver. Because with townhomes, we don't generally allow those to be front-loaded. But that subdivision standards waiver would basically go through our engineering department and they would determine if that gets approved. But if council also acknowledges that, then most likely we would allow for that front-loaded on these. Because they would be front-loaded, we did basically ask that the garage be pushed back to 25 feet. Reason for that is then you can park a car in the driveway as well. It would allow for the building to extend, as the applicant is showing in their diagram, to extend a little bit forward in front of that garage, and would be able to have a 15-foot front setback for the building itself, but the garage would be pushed back 25 feet. At Planning Commission, all of this was discussed and brought up. We've been making it very upfront with both Planning Commission and Council about the relief that's being requested. Staff did look, even without the relief, these technically are buildable lots, so I would like council to keep that in mind. These are buildable regardless of the requested variance or anything, or not variance, but administrative adjustment. At Planning Commission did recommend approval with both a condition and then the acknowledgements. So the acknowledgements of relief being access to access to a street for less than 36 foot wide lots. So that's subdivision standards waiver. And then reduction in a rear setback, which would go through our administrative adjustment. And then the condition is that prior to recording, the 10-foot BOPU easement that is on the plat be changed to just a general utility easement along Cheyenne Street. Again, Planning Commission did recommend approval with those acknowledgements and conditions. Staff does recommend approval, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from committee? Questions from committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Rennie?
So recently we got rid of minimum lot sizes except as dictated by the setback. What is the rear setback?
Mr.
that
Chair,
would-
through
that
you,
would be
so
required?
the rear setback that would be required would be 20 feet, which is our standard on all lots.
Okay, and the applicant's asking for 10 feet.
Correct.
And going back to the garages, normally we would ask them to be rear loaded and not.
Correct. So what,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, through you, so what the applicant is requesting is this relief so that he can build a specific product on these lots that he feels will basically be sellable. It does provide the garage space because when it comes to any of our residential, that's single family, or in this case, I mean, they are townhomes, but they're each individual lots. We do require 2 parking spaces per unit. So he is providing that because he's got that garage space and then he's got the driveway. If he was to somehow have to do rear loaded, he would have to try to put in some sort of access easement behind all the lots.
There's not an alley behind the lots.
So no, so the alley is to the east side of the property. So they'd have to come in on the alley and he'd have to put in another basically easement behind all of them to do rear access.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? So as a councilman for a number of years, you have those weird thoughts when you're sharing a meeting. Who names these things? Like the Kerry cottages?
It's the applicant. He just-
Is it the applicant?
Mr. Chair, through you, that would be the applicant who names, the applicants they can name the plats basically whatever they want.
Okay.
It's a cottage and it's right next to Cary Junior High.
So
Very good.
generally, we will have plats, as you've noticed, we'll have either like 4th filing, 2nd filing, it will just be a continuation when they do a subdivision. In some cases, the applicants will choose a complete brand new name based on what they want their project to be called.
Okay. Thanks. Any further questions from committee? Any public comment? Public comment?
Do we get a developer's report?
Oh, developers report. Yeah.
Is it the right button? Okay. Okay, hey folks, Brandon Swain, 2802 Deming Boulevard, just in the nick of time. So on this project, I'm sure Connor alluded that there's a few moving pieces to this, and generally I'm kind of this infill guy with these weird projects, but I promise you there really is context behind these. So one, the name, it was my decision to name him Kerry Cottages. Very, very original decision. It was easy with the new Cary Junior High being next door. So a couple things. There's really 3 processes that have to be approved and able to make this project work. Of course, the expedited plat, which is the action before you now. There's also a subdivision standards waiver. A fairly aggressive term for what really is just asking to allow to have front-loaded garages on this property. I have done projects in the past where we've platted and made easements for rear access, but the dimension on this lot is only 57 deep. I believe you would need at least 24 to 25 feet to be able to use a rear easement, and that just eats up too much of the lot area. Also in doing so, it would make the main floor essentially just garage space. So you'd really have to walk up and have at least a 2-story project, but probably closer to 3 stories, which I've done in the past, but I'm reluctant to do on this parcel. The goal with any project is to try and contain as much on project parking as I can. With 4 dwellings, it's going to have a minimum of 8 parking spaces. So one, I've got the approval for the front loaded garages that allows me to have at least 4 spots that are loaded off of Cheyenne Street. However, I needed to request administrative adjustment, which reduces the rear setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. The only reason that I'm doing that is to pull that front garage door back far enough to allow a car to be parked in the driveway. Planning and development staff will tell you that my front setback requirement is 15 feet. However, the expectation for the garage will be 25 feet. So I've got a predicament here. If you add 25 to 23, we have 48, and that just leaves me the 10-foot remaining depth in the lot. It's a bit nuanced, but unable to qualify for the minimum tap size in these lots, BOPU's going to limit me to 250 square feet of turf on these projects. And it just happens to be that these lots are 25.25 feet wide. So the rear yard is actually a perfect size and conducive to that smaller tap. I'm not going to take that money and pocket it. I'd rather pass it to the new owners on the project. So in the end, I do believe I have these approvals in place. The city staff did ask that I mention them as a part of the project, but this really helps me build 4 units on a lot that's been for sale for over a year. I don't know that anyone else has tried either a pre-application meeting or even an offer on the property. And it allows me to have 4 units that can contain all the parking on site. We've also done the driveways in a way that 2 of them are shared, so to try and preserve as much on-street parking as we can. The result will be 4 townhomes, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms with the 1-car attached garage, roughly 1,100 square feet. We don't really have many of those opportunities in our market. They are afforded by these infill properties. It's a great area, perhaps not Cary teachers because it's too close to the workplace, but maybe east, maybe people working at the Jonah Bank building, et cetera, might find a good use for these properties. That being said, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for the developer? Questions? Do you have a price point on these yet?
I don't. I can tell you the requirement for this building type will be 30% brick and stone. However, that may not be enough. You've got 100% brick building and Cary Junior High. So I might opt to do these a little bit nicer, maybe 70-80% masonry. I am building 2 homes. They're similar in square footage. However, they're all on slab. I would really hope to be around a mid $300,000 price point for these, which seems aggressive, but for anything new, that's just kind of where we're at in Cheyenne. I have certain expectations and minimums that I'll do in terms of windows. I'll never put anything less than Anderson in a project that adds significant expense. But you get nicer colored windows. You have more options with those types of things. These will have a 2-story balcony. So the master bedroom will be on the upper level. You'll be able to walk out maybe too far from the golf course to see what's going on, but you'll have a decent amenity to do something there. So although they're smaller, I do try to add those things, which sometimes does up the expense. But we're really trying to create value here. I think attainable housing is synonymous with lacking in quality or basic. And I really hope to break the mold on that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman?
through you, I really appreciate you working hard on these infill projects. I think they're very important to the community. We've got a lot of, well, seems like we have a lot of parcels around the community that have never been developed, and it's kind of a waste. So I really appreciate all these that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I can, I would like to reciprocate the appreciation. I had a pre-application meeting on this project over a year ago. At that time, it was discerned and able to do the project I'm doing today, not only required an expedited plat action, but a zone change. If you recall, several months ago, you passed an amendment removing minimum lot size. That reduced the risk tolerance on this project just enough for me to decide to pursue it just as an expedited plat action. I would be remiss not to mention the Board of Public Utilities and the city engineering department as well. There's no water main in front of Cheyenne Street. To put in a water main would be a significant expense, a significant hurdle to all those people bringing their kids to Cary. We found solutions to bring that water off of Grove. It's a great solution for not only me as a developer, but for the Board of Public Utilities to be able to maintain the utilities moving forward. So I've been in the game a lot longer than I think. I'd like to think I'm still in my mid-20s. That's no longer the case, but it certainly has gotten easier, more straightforward, also more professional too, with expectations of the planning staff. If I'm not mistaken, this might be the first project that's been submitted that's taking advantage of those minimum lot size requirements. So I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, any public comment? Public comment? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt with staff recommendations one A and B and two A and B.
You want to read those into the record?
Sure. One is acknowledgement of relief. One A, access to a street for lots less than 36 feet wide, subdivision standards waiver. One B, reduction in a rear setback, which would be administrative adjustment. Two A, prior to recording, a 10-foot utility easement be added along Cheyenne Street. And two B, a public access easement be added along Cheyenne Street for a 6-foot attached sidewalk.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from committee? Comments or questions? Hearing that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Number 22, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign a final plat for Sunrise Hills North subdivision, third filing, City of Cheyenne, Laramie County, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Hello, for the record, Athen Morris, Plan and Development. Here we have, the applicant has a final plat for 2.0 acres of land. It is in between the intersection of Thomas and Ridge Road. It's a final plat for 12 single-family unit lots, which you can see there on the map at the bottom there. It's currently zoned MR with the future use of UR, so these lots do meet the current condition as well as future conditions. This was approved in planning condition with one exception to be granted, and the exception is to the maximum block size. And so the applicant and us are as well looking for approval here. I am available for any questions.
Any questions for committee? Questions or comments? Okay, any public comment?
Good afternoon, Chair, through you. My name is Mark Christensen. I am with AVI, and we are the representative for the applicant. The applicant is also here for any questions, should there be any. So the item before you is going from 7 lots to 12 lots, and it is still a single-family development in this area, an infill opportunity as well. The impetus behind this is delivering more lots on the same frontage to help with the housing needs and housing costs in the community. All lots will meet and exceed the setbacks required of the DD7 lot type, which is a permitted lot type in the MR zone. There are no special exceptions requested for the zoning at this time. We do have a market study that is illustrating the community need of a housing type in this manner. And we also have Bruce and Chris here to discuss any engineering, grading, or drainage questions. And I'm available for any questions as well.
Questions from committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Councilman,
through you, could you explain the exception to the maximum block size? What are we doing there?
Yes, Chair, through you. The exception to the maximum block size comes from the UDC, and that exception is being requested because this area, the street network, is already built out. The UDC for newly platted areas does have that block size requirement, but for an area that is already built out, it's hard to retroactively do that as this is an infill opportunity.
Thank you.
any other questions from committee? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman.
so looks like the lot sizes are all, even though we're going from 7 to 12, lot sizes are all 6,600 square feet. So somewhat narrow, but fairly deep. Is that correct?
Here through you, that is correct.
Okay. And I may have missed it. Are you looking at townhomes for those 12 lots, or are they gonna be single family?
Here through you, we are proposing single-family homes on these lots. And again, they will meet that DD7 lot type with the 5-foot setbacks on the side, 25-foot front setback, and 20-foot rear setback.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any further questions or comments from committee? Thank you. Any public comment? Public comment?
Hello,
Hello.
Rebecca Murchie, 3222 Thomas Road. And I apologize for reading my comments, but it's the only way I can keep my thoughts together. When I attended the Planning Commission meeting on April 1st regarding the plat request, I felt blindsided. Instead of the 7 building sites, which was what was presented during the annexation and zoning process, the current request is now for 12 sites. My neighbors and myself were supportive of the 7 sites. We would not have been supportive of 12 sites. This change in plans feels very unfair. It is also an unreasonable request. The parcel of land is too small to support 12 homes. The same size parcel exists directly across the street and has 8 homes. The plan for the 12 homes does not fit with what is currently in the community. Also of concern is the ongoing question of drainage. With the needed filling in of that property, because a lot of it really dips down low, drainage will be impacted, potentially shifting the flow to the properties to the west, which includes mine. I have already noticed a difference in that with the filling in that has happened to this point. I have started to get standing water along my fence line during rainstorms. That has never occurred before. And the process of the filling in of the low-lying area has been questionable to this point. I guess my understanding is that there is a set standard for how this is done. The original owner of the property just had people bringing in whatever kind of fill dirt they wanted, and then he used his little skid steer to kind of rearrange it. I don't know that it has been done according to standards. Another concern is parking. With the proposed small lot size, it is highly probable that there will be on-street parking, both of cars and of RVs. And it is already challenging for myself and some of my neighbors when we're backing out of our driveways to see what is coming. If there's parking on the street, that'll even further obstruct the view, and that is a safety concern. In my opinion, the original plan for the 7 houses is the one that should be honored and upheld. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Elizabeth Staple, 3305 Thomas Road. Gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm sure it's an oversight in the part of the Planning and Development Department that there's no drainage. The drainage that was provided before for the 7 parcels of land was the last lot was to be a retention pond. And there is no drainage except for the planned retention pond. Now, I understand there is no retention pond. Allowing the 12 houses to be built on small lots on Thomas Road. Now the new plan for no retention. Now there is no plan for retention pond for the 12 houses. These houses will almost cover the lots with concrete in the area with no planned city drainage. And I respectfully ask that you demand the builder to plan to have a perfect retention pond available for these houses since there is no city drainage available. And that was a big discussion the last time that you guys approved the 7 houses on this property. Thank you so much for your consideration, and you have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Judy Adam, and I just moved here. I haven't been here for even a year. But when I bought the house, which is right across the street, I'm on 3331 Thomas Road. I'm right next to the retention pond on my side of the street. And when I moved in last June, from June and July, I had lakefront property 3 times last year. So with 12 houses being built across the street with no retention pond, I don't understand how that can happen. Also, before I bought the house, my realtor assured me that there wouldn't be any apartment size houses across the street. It would all be single-family homes, probably exactly like what's on our side. We have 8 houses on our side. I can't imagine 12 houses across the street. They must be just very tiny, tiny homes. And I agree with the parking too. If there's 12 single-family homes and 2 people in that single-family home, that's 24 cars up and down our street and parking on the side of our street. I don't know. I would have never bought the house if I knew that there were going to be 12 tiny homes across the street. That wasn't what they told me when I bought it.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Further public comment? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt with the exception to maximum block size.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So a motion is second. Any comments or questions from committee?
Mr. Chairman, could we have someone, staff or otherwise, come up and talk to us about drainage and parking?
Okay.
Members of the committee, Bruce Perryman, AVI. This project started off with a developer that laid it out for 7 lots. The detention is in the rear drainage easement. Because of some ongoing city improvements going east of this project, we have an interim detention pond on the very east lot. And it actually is on this particular layout. It's the last 2 lots would not be developed until the improvements to the east of this are done by the city. At that point, the north drainage pond that's already been designed and reviewed by city engineering would remain. So there is on-site detention. It's on the north in the drainage easement. This project is, again, infill, and it's to address the need that we're seeing in our community. The way you get affordable housing in our community is not to have excessively large lots. The zoning standards are such that we can accommodate single-family homes in these lots, 2-car garage, 2 cars in the driveway. There's adequate parking for everybody. It meets all the standards. I can't speak to what was promised to some other folks across the street, but the property owners, a new developer has acquired the property now, and they believe they have a product that would fit, and very nice 1,200 square foot homes to be built here, single family.
Thank you. Mr. Cobb, do you have anything to add?
Just if you have any questions of me, and just as Bruce indicated, just to assure, yes, so the interim detention was those 2 lots on the very far east side would not be developed until such time that we make the drainage improvements to the Cordier detention pond downstream. That's what he's referring to. And that obviously is going out to bid here this summer. So that will be started, just for your information.
So they're gonna do the 10 lots and then wait till we're done?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, to address the question about parking, the UDC does require each of these properties to provide 2 parking spaces. Generally speaking, this type of development will see at least 1 driveway space and at least 1 garage space. Often we'll see 2 garage spaces and 2 driveway spaces. There is a question about RV parking. But Thomas Road is a public street. We could have somebody across the street parking an RV on that street, even if this property never develops. It's kind of a little bit of a free for all, and there's little we have in our code book to prevent people from parking on a public street. I hope that addresses that question.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Elizabeth Stable, 3305 Thomas Road. So I understand that there's going to be two lots for retention. Is that the same size as on the other side of the street? And what is exact dimensions of the retention pond on this proposed development on that side of the street, the north side of Thomas Road? So I just wanted the exact dimensions because as the young lady said before, she does have lakeside property when it rains. And there is at least one house who has leakage into their basement on the finished houses on Thomas Road. So I was just interested in exact measurements, please. Thank you.
It's
Oh, Chair through you, Mark Christensen, again with AVI. So the size of those last two lots currently is 16,727 square feet, with that 48 feet of frontage and for lot 11, and then 68 feet of frontage on lot 12 on Thomas Road. Across the street, I could quickly find that size, but again, those would be utilized until the downstream drainage improvements would be made. So those are larger than that area, or let me just bring that up real fast. And again, we do have some schematics of what the proposed building will look like on those lots if the committee would like to see those as well. And I'll hand one to Jennifer as well too.
Thank you.
That'll be the last.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for bearing with me while I pull this up here. So the lots across the street that would be utilized for detention currently, until the downstream drainage improvements would be made are 16,727. And then the current lot that is adjacent to the property owner of concern is 12,233 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman.
Mr. Christensen, so I'm looking at this, the front elevation. It appears these units will have a two-car garage, is that right?
That is correct.
So there'll be room for two cars in the garage, two cars in the driveway. So each lot will have a capacity for 4 vehicles.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any further public comment?
Elizabeth Stable, 3305 Thomas Road. So what I understand Mr. Christensen saying is that the retention pond on the developing street, on the developing north side of the street, is going to be larger than retention pond on the other side of the street. The street, the side where our friend lives with the lakeside property, that is a very deep retention pond, very deep. And it's very large. So Mr. Christensen, I want you to answer this question. Are you saying that your retention pond is going to be larger, wider, and deeper than the retention pond on the other side of the street, sir? Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Mr. Christensen.
Yes, Chair, through you. So it is a temporary detention pond, and those details are being reviewed by the city engineer. Square footage wise, it is larger, but those details are currently being under reviewed by the city engineer, and it's being engineered. There will be zero discharge until those upstream, downstream improvements are completed.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is my last comment. Thank you for your time this afternoon and for your attention this afternoon. I do have a very deep concern because Mr. Christensen did not say that his plans were made in stone. So when you're going to be doing something in that neighborhood where the water level, as far as I can tell, is high, and we have rainstorms there, of course, I am very concerned that their retention pond is completely made in stone, that they have got their numbers, they've got their depth, they know they can go as deep as they want to. And also there have to be some geological studies that have to be done on this land before it can be built on. So I thank you for your time. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment? What's that? Okay. You're right, we do have them. I just wanted to get some questions answered, so. Okay, so we have a motion on the table?
For discussion.
Discussion.
So I can't
Uh,
ask a question?
we've got a motion on the table now. Councilman Seagrave had asked for, information on the drainage. So that's what we'd gotten, and she had asked a couple of questions, so I allowed a little levity for her to go through. Okay? So,
Can I ask about the height of the buildings proposed?
Single story
one of those.
or one
Okay,
story?
that's yours. It's all yours. Okay? Okay, so we have a motion, the second. Any further discussion or comment from committee? Comment or question? Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you. I share the concerns that these neighbors have just expressed, particularly the drainage question, as well as the parking. And I did hear mention of the fill that went in there that I think that's another concern, as well as the geology. So I'm going to be a no on this. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is on second reading, so if we need further information or further,
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's a resolution, so it's
Oh.
one time.
oh. This is on second reading, or this is resolution, so if we need anything between now and next Monday, the developer could provide that. If the council has any questions, perhaps you could reach out to the developer and figure out what your question is. Okay, so any further comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman?
this seems to me to be the exact project that this council has been asking for. Smaller units, smaller lots, more affordable, connected to city services. There's no issues, as at this point anyway, with traffic or that type of thing. So if we're gonna eliminate lot sizes and if the council wants, small lots, small houses, this is the perfect project. So I'm going to support it. Something could come up between now and Monday night, but at this point, it meets everything that we've asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further comments or questions from committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman?
when I look at the 12 lots, generally they run around 6,600 square feet. I was just looking on the Greenwood maps, the lots across the road in Thomas Heights are slightly larger. They're all about, at least on Thomas Road, they're about 7,000 square feet. The roads across the street, which the neighbors don't seem to have a problem with, those lots are all 6,500 square feet. So they're actually smaller than the proposed 12 lots here. In addition, there was never a complaint when those homes were being built about how that would affect the parking. Be the same effect you either have in the garage or or potentially on the street. I live close there. I drive that all the time. That's really not been an issue up to this point. So I guess for the sake of consistency, if I voted for 6,500 square foot lots on the south side, I will vote support 6,600 square foot lots on the north side.
Any further comment or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
Okay. Being as there's no further anything else on the agenda for the Public Services Committee, we are adjourned.